Hey, good morning, and thanks for serving. This is the video for getting familiarized with our audio system. All right, so let me flip you over here. This is our mixing board, all right? And all of our channels, physical channels, get plugged in here. Here are all of our inputs through 1 through 24. And then here are all of our outputs. And there's about 16 different outputs. And outputs and inputs are exactly what they say. So an input is a microphone or a piano or a drum set or whatever those things are, or our Spotify. You know, we have Spotify that comes in from the other computer. And all of those things come in on each one of these different channels. And then we have outputs. And some of the outputs are, say, those speakers here that are in the sanctuary. And another set of outputs is the in-ear monitors that come in for the singers and for the different people on the worship team. Another output that we have is for our live broadcast on YouTube, and that same audio signal goes out to the foyer, and it also goes out to the fellowship hall. So the way that we turn this guy on is pretty simple. It's right here. It's this button, red button, boom. And so what all is getting turned on? As you can see, lots of lights and things are coming on. So that button will turn on the console here. It will also turn on the amplifier that is for the speakers that are in the sanctuary. If this isn't turned on blue, then the button for that is right there. All right. Then this unit here, which has lots of wires hanging up and over it, is actually it's 8 different amplifiers for the headphones. And so these in-ear monitors, so here's in-ear number 1. All right, this cable goes through here, over to the top, and into the back of this unit, and goes over into in-ear number 1. It's upside down and backwards, but you can see how they're labeled slightly well. Get used to that, Mitch. And so each one of these amplifiers has a volume control to boost the overall volume of each one of those in-ear monitors. All right, and so looking at the console, dun, 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 we have different inputs. These are all different inputs. All right, we have the cajon, bass, click track that goes only in the ears of the musicians, different vocal mics. These 2 channels are open. Banjo, well, we haven't had a banjo recently, so that one's open. Guitar, piano, handheld mic, which is the announcement mic, and headset mic, which is the mic that Pastor Dan uses. All right, and so all of these different channels go to different outputs. And one of the outputs that isn't a physical output in the back here, but actually, it actually is, it's the output that is a USB connection right back there. USB to host goes into our computer, our handy dandy little Mac computer. The way that you turn that guy on is right here. That's the sound you want to hear if it's turned on. All right. And so we have the ability to not only send all of these channels to those different physical outputs, but we can also send it to the Mac. All right. And what we end up doing is we end up processing those signals in the Mac, and then we actually bring them back in to inputs on the console. All right. So these inputs here, these 4, see if my computer, so these 4 inputs, we have our handheld microphone, our headset microphone, and our band bus. All right, so those are the 4 different channels that come from the Macintosh computer back into the console. All right, so with that being said, let's go take a look at the Mac. Something else that would normally need to be done is turn on, while we're here, we'll go ahead, come on back, and in this dark hole back here, there is a subwoofer, I promise you. And on the back of this subwoofer, there is a switch. And when you get the green light, that's what you want to turn on the subwoofer. Turn that light off there. All right, so just to give you a little bit of an overall for the inputs and outputs, we have inputs that go into the mixing board that are physical inputs, everything from the computer sound and Spotify, all the way to microphones and pianos and whatever else. And then those inputs are able to be distributed to where we would like. And one of the places that they're distributed is into the computer here. And the password, man, my focus is just not working. There we go. Password there. All right. And you have notes also right here. So you'll be able to see those. Remind me later. Okay. So to open things up, we're going to go to Studio One, get that going. And as it's opening up, it's going to be scanning all of the different software that is part of the setup. And one thing that we have to do is make sure that the computer is communicating with the mixing board over there. And the way that we can tell is right here is if this is the audio interface. And so we're going to just choose this. And when we choose this, we get an option for the playback device. And the playback device that we want is the Yamaha TF. And that's the name of the mixing board. So once that's done, everything is good here. We are going to change that to 64 samples. All right. If we do 64 samples, then that allows our latency for the input and the output. That's how much time it takes for the computer and the mixing board to communicate. So we definitely want to keep that on the low side. All right. And then once you do that, you will go ahead and choose Church 2024. And it will, in fact, start loading. I really wish this would autofocus. I don't know why it's not autofocusing. Drive me crazy, all this stuff. So as things are loading, we'll get you kind of just an idea of how the computer communicates with the. All right. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, we have channels, lots of channels, all right? And so these are the channels that we have going back and forth from the mixing board. All right, the ones that we're using currently are the cajon. The cajon is in input 7 and input 8. Those are the two mics for that. The piano stereo mix is in input 26. And the guitar is input 27, input 18, and as you go on. And so the way that this is all routed is for each channel, the headset or the handheld microphone, we could choose whatever channel we want. I wish this would just autofocus. That'd be so nice. We can choose whatever channel we want to put on, right? But we want to pick the channel that is the correct one for what we're trying to have communicate with the computer, which is channel 21. So this is on channel 21, and then this is our output. All right, and so we have different output options here, and channel 3 is our output. All right, if we look, so one of the nice things about the things that's nice about this is we actually can control the mixing board with the tablet here. All right, and so these are the different channels that are on the mixing board. And just to double check, we have our physical input on channel 21 here. We're routing channel 21 over to the mixing board, and our output is channel number 3. And so that means that we have to make sure that this is chosen to channel 23. I mean channel number 3, I'm sorry, my brains. Handheld is routed to channel 23. And so if you notice the volume, and this is the volume on our main speakers, for our original input signal is actually 0. All right, so this input here is at 0. And the reason is because this is the unprocessed audio, and then this, once it's gone through the computer, is the processed audio. So that is what we do. And so the processes of the audio are here in these inserts. And so each one of these inserts does a different thing to modify the sound of the signal. All right, and so that's a brief overview of what those do, and you're not going to need to mess with those probably very much ever at all. All right, but something that you are going to need to know is if you want sound to come through a specific channel, we have a mute button, we have a solo button, and did you notice all the other ones went mute? And then we also have this button, which means that we're going to allow the signal to pass through. All right, so for a signal to be working properly, it has to be unmuted, and this red and blue buttons need to be shining. So they need to be like that. All right, and something else that you'll notice is you'll see a green meter here come up when there's sound coming through. If there's no green meter, then somewhere down the line is obviously not working. All right, so one of the major filters that we use that will be part of the tasks, and once we get to a spot where this is a familiarity, walkthrough, we'll go through the tasks and how to accomplish those tasks. But we have vocal tuning over here. And the vocal tuning is pretty simple. What it does is it gives us the ability to tune the vocals to the key of the song. And what that does is it makes the vocals sound nicer, pretty much. That's basically what it comes down to, is it makes them sound nicer. And so the way that you would adjust that is you would come to here. So we have we're looking at Heather's vocal right here, which is channel, there you go, which is input 11, channel there. All right, and we go to Heather, and down here is how you choose what that's going to be. So we have the key of we do all of our songs in the key of major. So they're a major scale, and the key you can choose right here. All right. So Battle Belongs is a song that we do. It's in the key of G. So you would go through and you would change each one of these to be in the key of G. Here's mine. I really need vocal tuning, so please, please put it on. All right, so that's how those work. And that's pretty much the way that we make sure that things are turned on. Something else that I do is we have a list of channels here that aren't being used. All right, and what we do is, so here is a channel for when Mr. Paul is playing. His input typically is number 11, and we have his things here. But if you notice, it's muted because we don't want to have things on that we're not using. All right, his inserts or his effects are turned off. You can turn them on and off from here, just like that. And you can unmute or mute here. We also have Heather when she's singing with Elena. We keep that one muted, but if she ends up singing with Elena, then what we would do is we would go over here. We would go over to Heather, and we would mute her and turn her off there and disable her, because that helps. The more of these that are turned on, the harder it is on the computer. And we would come over here and we would click on this to turn on the inserts. Then we would double check that her microphone is in fact on input 13, which typically is my microphone. So we would make sure that that's the case, and then we would unmute her, and then we could take her and drag her on over. Drag her on over, and then she's there in this section of things that we typically use. All right, and so that's how it works. I can't seem to get this thing to stay focused, which is really a bummer. So like for tonight, we have my mother is playing bass. So we'll go ahead and grab her, bring her over, maybe over to piano, right around there. We will activate her there. We will make sure she is unmuted, and we will turn on her inserts. We also have Paul playing with us today. So we are going to turn on his inserts, and we are going to activate that and unmute him. And we will drag him over into this zone. We don't have Heather playing with Elena separately. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna undo that one, mute it, and then we're gonna take this and we'll drag it back over to this zone of unused things. And it looks like we're not gonna have any guitar for a minute either. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna disable that. Gonna mute it, do that. So I think you get the idea of, of the muting and unmuting. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's fairly simple. But we do it this way so that we don't have to recreate any of these channels that we don't normally use. We can just come over to here, make sure the input's the right thing, make sure the output's the right thing, and that's how it works, you know? So one other thing that'll be helpful for you is, if you notice, some of these channels, they don't just go straight back to the mixing board. So this channel, which is the headset mic, goes from input 21 into channel 3 on the board. This one goes from input 22 to channel 4, which is the headset, which is all good, right? Because we know that these are there. But this band bus is literally the culmination of all of these other tracks. All right? And they go all the way from here, and they go into the band bus and into this main channel right here. So this is the master fader. And this master fader goes to outputs number 5 and 6, which are outputs number 5 and 6 right there. All right, so that's pretty much the routing and the way that things get routed on here. You know, it's one of those deals where if one button isn't pushed correctly, like let's say, well, let's start from the beginning. Let's take a look at the headset microphone, all right? And we know the headset microphone, the physical input is on number 22, all right? If this is the mute button right here. If that button isn't turned on, no sound comes out, all right? So that has to be on. And then we go to the computer and we make sure that the headset is on input number 22. We make sure that these inserts are chosen and they're lit up blue. We make sure that this is not muted, that this is turned on. And then we make sure that channel 4 right here is not muted, okay? Because if we mute this guy, then no sound will come out. And the volume is up. All right, so that is standard protocol. Standard protocol for the audio and getting things going. All right, this was just a crash course. I mean, we didn't touch on a lot of stuff, but this is the most important stuff. First, making sure that everything is turned on. Second, making sure that the computer and the mixing board are communicating properly. And then thirdly, making sure that each channel is properly routed so that sound will come out. All right, it's a very complicated system. Okay, I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, but to be honest with, if we want this quality of audio based on our budget, I haven't figured out a way to make it sound better. So, and it's probably just straight up operator, error too, So, all right, well, this is the video. God bless you. Thank you for serving. Please take a look and get back to me with any questions. Okay, bye.